Welcome to the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I'm your host, Mary Zarnecki. Business leaders today are overwhelmed with a unique set of challenges, from rapidly changing markets to digital disruptions, leaving many uncertain about where to focus their efforts to grow their brands and their businesses. This uncertainty can lead to missed opportunities, wasted resources, and stagnant growth. But it doesn't have to be this way. On this show, I provide clear, actionable strategies and bring in guest experts that cut through the noise and deliver consistent results. I share what works and what doesn't when it comes to effective marketing and growing your business. Tune in to discover the latest insights and proven tactics to make your marketing more profitable, lead your teams with confidence, and achieve success for your brand, business, and personal aspirations. If you've ever wondered if it's possible to skip the overwhelm and map out a plan for success on a simple sticky note, I'm here to tell you that it is. So grab that pen and those sticky notes and let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I am your host, Mary Zarnecki, and I am so excited to bring you a guest expert today where we're going to be talking all about your content, your personal brand, your social presence. Karlyn Ankrom is here to share all of the goodies, all of the golden nuggets and insider tips on how to show up in a meaningful way that actually creates results. So thank you, Karlyn, for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mary. I'm so excited to get into this conversation.
Awesome. So happy you're here. Now, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with Karlyn, Karlyn is the founder and lead strategist of Oh Snap Social. By the way, I love that name. And she's also creator of the Fan Firestarter framework. And this is a new approach to social media marketing, and it's made specifically, in her words, for businesses that have told her that they've been tempted to fake their own death and move to Tahiti at the mere thought of content creation. So I know I definitely have met lots of people that do not love content creation, but I love how you phrase that, Karlyn.
Thank you. I've heard it so many times. It's very true, but I'm like, also come back to us, like social media is supposed to be fun. We all overanalyze it these days.
No, 100%. So I would love to get into just a little bit of how did you end up here? So when did it dawn on you that people need help with this, that this was your calling?
It's really interesting. And to make a long story short, is I have a journalism background. That's my roots are in writing. I've always loved writing since I was very young, 10 years old, in fact. And it wasn't until my senior year that I was like, I know I don't want to be a reporter. I don't have the tough skin for that, really, because a lot of news is bad news. And I'm like, that just dampers my spirit. That's very, how do I describe it? Very excited chihuahua. That's my vibe. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a news reporter. I'm not going to be the traditional broadcast journalist. But what I was picking up on is how companies and corporations were starting to leverage social media almost like an online newsroom where they're able to get content and news out there faster, especially in the 24/7, 365 news cycle that was required without spending a ton of money on a PR newswire. Now, that being said, before the PR people come after me, it is still very important. I understand, but also social media is another way to get your message out to the masses in a, I'm going to call it like container environment that people are already showing up on. So that's when I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. It tends to be more fun most of the time, but that's really where I was like, okay, I can write fun copy that is aimed to be conversational, is supposed to be social. And that's where I leaned in and didn't really look back.
That's amazing. We both know that people need help because even professional marketers that are working for larger corporations, a lot of times the platforms are changing. And as a professional marketer, whether you're working for a corporation, whether you're running your own small business, you're doing your business. You're trying to keep your job under wraps, right? You're trying to keep that to-do list in management. It's very hard to spend your time catching up. So when you're working with people or, advising people, what would you give people the advice? How do you stay up on trends? How do you maintain relevancy when it feels like the ground is shifting underneath us?
That is the perfect analogy. Really, the only constant in social media is change, and it's every day there's something new. I tend to look at two publications regularly. I subscribe to their newsletters. It's like I open both of them, newsletters that I open regularly. All the other ones I'm like, I'll read that later. It's Social Media Examiner They have a lot of like step-by-step how-to breakdowns. So if you're like, oh, I heard about this new thing, like how do I take action on it? How do I make it relevant for my business and what I'm doing as a marketer or a small business owner or a corporate leader? And then the other one is Social Media Today. They just tell you the news. If you're like, oh, the CEO of Instagram went live, like cue heart palpitations because what now has changed. But they break it down for us so we can really understand, is this something that I really need to be paying attention to right now? Or is it something that I can put on the back burner for later? And those are the two that I subscribe to. I look at. Another thing, if you're into like the Instagram side of things, subscribe to or follow Create. They have a lot of the intricacies of what content is trending. However, and I just did a piece of content on this recently, and it's about the whole like demure and that whole thing that was trending. You don't have to do all the trends. In fact, if it doesn't align with your business, your brand, and or the goals that you're setting out to achieve when it comes to your social media efforts, don't feel the pressure to do all the things. And where that starts to get blurry is when we don't actually focus on what our goals are. If we don't take the time to revisit our goals monthly, quarterly, and if you really get distracted by shiny objects, weekly, just having that foresight and in mind before we create any piece of content is going to help us stay on track and be able to measure the things that really matter to our business going forward.
I think that's such a good point, because I thank you for sharing those resources, because staying up on the trends and staying up on what the new news is important. But once we get that information, okay, we now know that there are these trends out there. Are they right for our business or not? So grounding ourselves in the goals sounds like the first step. Tell me a little bit more about that. Because, okay, so say someone's grounded in their goals, but one of those goals is ROI based. I know there's a big myth saying that, oh, social can just be about awareness, right? It doesn't generate ROI. So tell me more about that.
I think you have to understand the behaviors of each of the platforms so that you can manage not just like your own expectations and making the goal attainable, but also manage leadership expectations, especially those of us who are in the corporate world who are maybe reporting to people who don't really understand how social media is working in the present moment, because it shifts and changes all the time. But really taking a focus and being like, okay, how does this generate dollars? Marketing is social media is marketing. It's social media marketing. There is a whole dynamic of social sales, but that's a whole nother beast. And that's a whole nother set of skills. But at the same time, knowing how to drive traffic to the places you own online, whether it's to generate emails, whether it's to generate downloads of the program or a PDF or buy your book, or you have to have somewhere to send people. And I always tell people, it's like how digital dots connect. It can't just end with your post. Where do you want people to do with that? What's the call to action in that piece of content? I know this is getting like granular, but it's important because I'm not generating any sales. Are you asking anyone to pay you money? Are you asking people to go to your website to learn more? Are you asking people to get on your email list? And I know marketers, and I'm sure you've heard of it, you might have said it to several people, I say it all the time. But the truth is, we do not own our followers. People are so stressed around how many followers we have, when really, you could have 100,000 followers and have only $100 in your bank. Those people may not be paying you. How can you activate them so that they are? And what we really control, because if Zuckerberg tomorrow was like, this has been so much fun, I'm shutting down Meta, I'm going to sail off in the sunset with my yacht and do MMA fighting for the rest of my life. Awesome. That's what he does now? I don't know. And wear gold chains. Like, cool, you go do you. But all of us would be in sheer panic who have been putting a lot of weight into how many followers we have. So really taking the time to direct traffic other places so that we own it. Or when there's, I call it a social media snow day, when Facebook doesn't work or Instagram is just black and you can't get into it, you have another way to communicate with your audience that you own. And it's most of the time it's tool agnostic, because you can download it and put it into another tool. But yeah, I think we just need to stop stressing over followers and really focus on what really creates those fans.
I like that. So actually, I like how you said connecting the digital dots. So
Yeah.
having content out on these platforms is only step one, that we need to
Yes.
somehow bring them into other parts of the journey, right? We talk a lot
Yeah.
on this show about like customer
Buyer
journey
journey.
and consumer journey.
Yeah.
So you're trying to bring them over. So you
Mhm.
mentioned one thing about creating the right content that's going to engage, and certain parts of your content have to have a call to action. It has to say, do this thing, because we're dumb. Let's just be honest. Like all of us are just critter brains at the core of it. And we do what we're asked to do. If you don't ask us to do something, we're not going to usually come up with that idea ourselves. But how do you balance that? So when you're working with your clients, because I know you work with personal brands, I know you work with corporate brands, small businesses, like when you're working with them to start mapping out that content plan, how do you balance those kind of direct calls to action with content, like you said, that really captures people and it expands your audience online?
It's about having a fine balance between it, because to your point, and I love that you brought up like the customer journey, buyer's journey, because I subscribe to like the HubSpot model of that, right? Awareness, consideration, decision. And you have to meet people where they're at. So if you know that LinkedIn is your bread and butter, and the most of the people that hang out there are either your peers or ideal clients, but they're not as active over there, you have to make every piece of content that you put out there count. You also have to be able to engage with the people over there. So it's not just posting and being like, I'm done for the day, when you're like sailing off. You need to stick around, be part of the conversation, be part of that community that you've started to build around yourself on these social platforms. And understanding that there's different strategies, I think what they can call them, it's probably a dated term now, but content pillars, content themes, buckets, whatever, because it gives you that balance, because you're starting to build trust over time. And if you are not doing this one type of content right now, especially if you're a personal brand or even just a leader in your corporation, vertical video. Please do vertical video. I almost sounded like Sabrina Carpenter with that song.
That's okay.
Please, please. Yeah. That is where a lot of these platforms adopting the TikTok-esque model. LinkedIn is no different. LinkedIn has introduced a beta of vertical video. It is coming. I just took a training a couple weeks ago from LinkedIn Corporate around this vertical video concept, and here's the ways that we should start to do it. Talk to camera. There's so much that we know, and all of that information, the edutainment, I like to say. I didn't pioneer that term. I think it was Mari Smith, who's like the queen of Facebook, or Kim Garst, who's like a very big pioneer in the marketing space. Edutain people, build the trust over time, give them value, and then ask for the sale. That's something that I think is very common, that we hear all the time. And Gary Vaynerchuk, love him or hate him, it's the whole concept of jab, right hook, give them value, then ask for the sale, ask for them to download the thing, subscribe to your email, etc. But you have to have the balance.
I love that. All right. Because it's like you said, you have to win over the trust first. They have to know that you can solve their problem first, or that you help people that are like them first before we start asking for things.
And especially if you're selling something that's a nice chunk of change, you're not going to sell like a $4,000 product to a stranger in the first touch point. I don't even know what's the stat now. It used to be 7 touches. Now it's 12 or 15 or something.
It just seems to be going up and up. Yeah.
There's so many other options that not participating in social media isn't an option, but participating in it haphazardly is also not an option.
Yeah.
So being strategic, being focused on what matters, knowing who your audience is and where they're hanging out is going to be like gold, chef's kiss gold.
I love that. When it comes to, because I like how you said, you have to create edutainment, you have to create content that captures people's interest, that speaks to what's going on for them specifically. What's your advice when it comes to then, because I've talked to certain brands recently that have been really interested in the whole, excuse me, influencer conversation, right? So we're going to create our own content, but how do we either create content that then becomes shareable, or we actually have influencers creating content for us? What's your take on that?
So there's a whole different skill set when it comes to influencer marketing. I know like a smidge, just because I've worked with that, man, it's probably 7 years back at this point. But having anyone create user-generated content is going to be gold. But it's also giving them opportunities to share stuff without you having to ask for it or pay them to share it. So making it fun, making it engaging, and making it easy for them to tag you, to use a hashtag. I think the biggest thing that people sleep on is when there's any type of event or any type of campaign rollout or new product that you're launching, it is a missed opportunity if you don't ask people to share their experience with the new thing or in the event. It's just a waste, because then you have nothing to share, you have nothing to show for the campaign, how it's affecting real people, and at the same time bubbling up this fear of missing out, this FOMO element at the same time, that people are like, oh man, I'm missing this thing, I should do this next year. Oh, I need to go out and buy that thing. Or, oh, I've been meaning to get my strategic planning in order for 2025 and this person's already doing it. Giving people the opportunity to share it, number one. Asking them to do it for free for you, even better, making it easy. So influencers, I think people sleep on them. I think you don't need the one that has 100 million followers. You need micro influencers are a big trend that we're seeing right now. But do your due diligence. I've seen a lot of small businesses in particular get the wool pulled over their eyes in a way that they're like, oh, they have 20,000 followers, but then they don't look at how much engagement that person actually has.
Yeah.
Or what kind of, do they respond back to the people that are leaving comments? That's the kind of people you want to do business with. Those are the kind of people that you want to promote your thing, because they're going to be responsive and they actually care about the thing that they're sharing, not just the bottom line. I don't know if that answered the full question.
No, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's also, that's the kind of behavior you'd want to model, right? Someone that's creating real community, creating real relationships, creating engagements. Because to your point, if it's your platforms as your brand, your business, you don't want to be dropping content and then, like you said, washing your hands of it, never going back and engaging with the comments. You actually want to be doing that too. And I like how you highlighted the fact that, are you making the most of your content, your platforms, your events, your new launches, your new conversations, even just what's going on in your business this week? Are you bringing people into that conversation before you even start thinking about hiring an influencer?
Yes.
Are you actually taking advantage of all the stories that you can already tell and invite people into? So I think that's a really good point. So
adding that element.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then last thing I'll say around that is adding the element of a way for them to leave a review, a video review at the end of the life cycle with your brand or your company or your business from a client side, depending NDAs and all the things. But that's often left on the table. And you're like, hey, can you leave me a review? They take the time 3 months later to do it. Get them in the moment, get them when they're in the meeting, ask them to press record on the Zoom. Hey, can you say that again? That was really beneficial. And I know that will be helpful on social media when people are shopping around for XYZ solution like we offer. Just make it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that social proof is gold. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other question, just last question I had was, I know we've been talking at the business level or the brand level. I know there are also folks out there that are developing personal brands. It might be an executive at a corporate, might be a small business owner that's building their business brand, but then also building their own personal brand. So for those folks who might be listening, who are building their personal brand, balancing other kinds of content they're creating for businesses or brands that they're representing or part of, how do you recommend that they think about their own content, that personal brand content? Is it similar to what we've been talking about, or are there special nuances that they need to think about?
There's different nuances, because you want to make sure whatever you're sharing is in alignment with like your own level of expertise. So if you worked for like an engineering company, but you're the marketer for the engineering company, you're not going to talk about engineering on your profile. You're going to talk about marketing and what that means. So you can give those marketing tips. You can highlight like cool campaigns that you've done within your existing company. But really, at the end of the day, the only thing you really have at the end of the day is your name. So really taking the time now to build your personal brand, especially in a place like LinkedIn, where it's so extremely powerful. And at the same time, if you are active in building your network there, you can share the company page's content right onto yours, boost the visibility of the company you work for, maybe get some clients out of it, and kudos to you, nice pat on the back. And it really just helps amplify what it is that you're already doing. And if you don't think that people in the company are noticing, they are. And some people will be like, why is she doing that? And other people are like, say more things about how awesome we are. So really balancing that, because I've been on both sides of that fence. One, and I don't think this is dated information, right? Back in 2015, I think, I worked for an agency, and the business leader didn't want me to elevate my personal brand as much as I was elevating everyone else's, but I couldn't elevate mine. But in the long run, I was the one that was working intimately with the clients. And if they didn't believe me, and I was the one doing the work, that was a big problem. So I pointed out that gap in the strategy, and then he let me proceed, and I put together a plan and goals and all the things. But it's definitely something you need to tackle, because that's going to be more valuable than ever going forward, especially in a place like social.
Yeah, I forget exactly where I saw it, but I did see some stats coming out recently saying that consumers, audiences trust business brands more when they see their leaders or their employees stepping out into the spotlight, so to speak.
Yeah,
Because you want to trust not just the cold brand, right? You want to trust the people behind the business. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. Like, people buy from people. They don't buy from logos.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're like Coke or Pepsi, then maybe.
Yeah, but they've earned that. That's like 100 years of
They've
work,
earned it
so.
over time. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Once you've been
again,
marketing for 100 years, you get to do that.
You get a pass. But yeah, that's a big thing to consider, especially if you're sitting there in the C-suite trying to figure out how to amplify your brand across, especially in today's work environment where it's like multi-generational for the first time. And that is an easy way to create this community within your potentially siloed demographics, to have them all come together and amplify the brand as a cohesive community.
Amazing. I think that's fantastic advice. Well, thank you, Karlyn, for being here and sharing your wisdom with all of us. Any final thoughts for folks listening?
Can we just make like a promise to ourselves that we get to make social media more fun again? Because it's become so serious, and I am looking forward to the day where, especially on places like LinkedIn, we're starting to see like glimmers of this, loosening the ties a little bit, having a little bit more fun, showcasing what it's like to really work where you are. I just want people to stress less and have a little, like maybe just like this much, like an inch more fun potentially, as we move forward in our strategies and planning.
Amazing. I love that invitation. Thank you, Karlyn. Getting to be more fun on social. Yes.
Yes. I'm here for
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I know that you've got other resources and ways for people to connect with you. We'll make sure to include all of those links. Is there any place specifically that you'd love to connect with people who are interested in speaking with you more?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Karlyn, Ankrom. You can find me there. And then if you want some freebies, I have this whole page on my website dedicated to some fun downloads. So if you want to go over there, it's osnapsocial.com/resources.
Fantastic. And so we'll link the LinkedIn connection as well as the free resources that Karlyn's got for everyone wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. So make sure to follow up, because I've seen those free resources and they are good. So take advantage of what Karlyn's offering with you. Thank you so much for being here as our special guest expert. So happy you joined us today on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And for everyone else, I will see you guys on the next episode of Sticky Note Marketing. If there is a topic that you're interested in learning more about, make sure to leave us a comment under this episode or along with this episode, wherever you're watching or listening to it. We take into account what you want to learn about, what you want to hear about, so we can bring you the next guest expert. All right. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit. Until next time, keep it simple and stay focused.